Hello and welcome to Tête-à-Tête, France 24's flagship interview show. Our guest today is Philippe Lazzarini. He is the Commissioner-General of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees, known as UNRWA. He is with us from Geneva. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. Lazzarini, after a one-week lull, fighting resumed this Friday in Gaza. We know that already 70% or more of the population has been displaced by the war and has moved towards the south of the Gaza Strip. Are you fearing the worst if indeed the battle now comes to the south of the Gaza Strip?
I am indeed deeply concerned. We have seen during the first phase of the war that more than 1.7 million people have been displaced, 15,000 people have been killed, among them 10,000 women and children. We have also seen that UN premises hosting and sheltering about 1 million persons today have also been hit since the beginning of the war, leading to the killing of more than 200 people. We have seen that there haven't been a real safe place for the people to move in the Gaza Strip. So yes, having an overcrowded population, in fact, almost the entire population is half the superficie of Gaza, conducting a war in this type of environment is deeply, deeply concerning.
Right. It is obviously a concern also for the U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, who was in Israel this week and asked the Israeli Prime Minister to protect civilians in the south of the Gaza Strip and not see what happened in the north. Are you hoping that the U.S. will be able to influence Israel and that Israel will not employ the same strategy in the south than it has in the north?
I really hope that there will be lessons learned. I really hope also that during the offensive, Israel will strictly abide to international humanitarian law. We have 1 million people right now in UN premises, in school, in warehouses, people seeking the protection of the UN flag, and we have provided all the localization of this building with the aim that this building be spared during the offensive.
Right. The U.S. Secretary of State also urged Israel, apparently, to set up so-called safe areas. We know Israel has also plans maybe to have some camps with tents in a deserted, well, I don't know if you can call it this way, in Gaza area. Is this realistic, given how crowded, overcrowded Gaza is, and especially in the south?
The safe area should be the public building where civilians are currently sheltered, whether UN building or hospital. But having a safe zone, there is no safe zone in a war environment, and even less if the safe zone is unilaterally decided, as it would be the case. Remember that at the beginning of the war, people of Gaza City and in the north have been asked to flee to the south and were told that the south would be safer. But we have seen that a high number of people killed were in the south, despite the south having been declared or described as safer.
Right. You've accused Israel of committing carnage in Gaza. Some would argue that carnage is what Hamas did on October 7, and as a result, the Israeli goal of eradicating that organization is an acceptable goal because it is a terrorist organization.
On October 7, a carnage has been committed by Hamas. This is despicable, it's abhorrent, needs to be strongly condemned. At the same time, a war now is taking place in Gaza, led by the Israeli army, which has caused the killing of more than 15,000 people, and among them 10,000 children and women, which is more than 2 years of civilians killed in the Ukraine war. Here, what we are saying is this number cannot really be collateral, And we expect, and I expect, that the rule of law be more strictly abide. Here we are talking about the notion of proportionality and distinction.
Right, because when you use the word carnage, it means that this has nothing to do with respecting international humanitarian law, but this is more in the kind of category of war crimes or things like that, right? This is what you're accusing Israel of.
The nature of the crime will be determined after the war through the existing legal instrument. My comment was that it is difficult to justify collateral damage when we are talking about such a high, staggering number of people having been killed.
Right. UNRWA has paid a heavy toll in lives. The schools are closed. Most of the facilities are. Do you accuse Israel of deliberately targeting UNRWA places?
I'm not finger pointing at. I'm just saying that we indeed, as an organization, have lost more than 110 of our colleagues who have been killed under bombardment. That number of UN premises have been hit more than 80 times since the beginning of the war, leading also to the killing of more than 200 people. Now, again, there will be, at the end of the war, most likely a legal mechanism, which will determine who has been responsible and the nature of the crime.
Israel is also accusing UNRWA of sheltering Hamas, either combatants, sympathizer, or even Hamas infrastructure. What is your response?
I have never ever received any allegation that UNRWA is sheltering Hamas combatant. Would this be the case, it would be a very grave breach again of the rule of law, and it would also be a war crime would a civilian be used for human shield.
Right. There is a more precise allegation that came up just recently. Israel's Channel 13 claims a hostage recently released this week said that he had been detained for 50 days by a teacher at an UNRWA school. This is a very serious allegation. This is more than the other accusations of UNRWA staff sympathizing with the October 7th attack. This is much more severe if it's true.
I think, as you say, if it is true, it is indeed a serious allegation. It's a concerning allegation. We keep asking questions about where this allegation is coming. We have asked the journalist to tell us what more does he know to help us to better understand what he's talking about. But so far, beyond a post, beyond a tweet having been posted on the platform X, there is absolutely no other information available at this stage.
What about the more general allegations that you are employing Hamas sympathizers?
We are doing very clear vetting whenever we recruit our staff. We have 30,000 staff across the region, and we are also submitting to the host country, and in this case, when it comes to Gaza and to the West Bank, once a year, all the list of the staff to Israel as the occupying power and also to the Palestinian Authority. And both Israel and the Palestinian Authority has never ever raised a concern about the affiliation of our staff.
If Israel carries out its offensive to wipe out, as it claims, Hamas, will UNRWA be forced to leave Gaza?
I went to Gaza 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, and I have been very clear with the staff that our intent is to stay, our intent is to scale up our response, and I also do believe that if UNRWA is pushed out of the Gaza Strip, it will be perceived by the Palestinian as betrayal of the international community, and they will feel completely abandoned.
As a conclusion, how do you see the future of the Gaza Strip and more broadly of the Palestinian issue? Is there any hope on the horizon?
I really hope that this is a wake-up call to once for all prioritize the two-state solution. The Israel-Palestinian conflict has unfortunately been deprioritized over the last 10 and 15 years. There have been far too much so-called containment policy, and the latest dramatic event that we are just witnessing now should advocate for an international community once for all bringing a solution to the longest lasting unresolved conflict since World War II.
Philippe Lazzarini, I want to thank you very much for appearing here on France 24, and I want to thank you all for watching this show. Stay tuned for more news.